Recording in progress.
Okay.
All right, I am the only person here.
I think Allison's working.
Yes.
There was quite a bit of stuff that came in this morning, so there's gonna be an addendum to the membership matters.
Oh, there will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff to it.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, just send that before Tuesday if possible. Okay, thank you.
Copies of the share plate.
The share plate. Yeah, I can print some out real quick. Sorry about that.
Probably 50.
Okay. Yeah, my apologies.
So do we put them by the front door when people are checking in?
Yeah, at this point we should probably put them at the table over there. But I'm about to print 50 copies of these. Oh, they'll all need to be paper or stapled, won't they? Okay. No, it's not calibrated correctly to do that right now. Okay, so these are gonna need to be stapled. So I will hand them to you as I get them stapled. But I do, yes. Yeah, I'm so sorry about this. Completely flew under the radar.
Yeah. I'm getting all of water in my life.
Yeah, I'll hand them to you as they come out.
Great. Yeah. So, actually, why don't we take them in rather than them out?
We'll pass them out when you're in there.
Exactly like.
Yes, hello. I have not.
Okay.
I mean, I have
Is she
recently,
the only
but
one
she
who
could be
can help us
anywhere.
with a membership question? We're trying to look somebody up.
I can look somebody up for you.
John Russell,
Oh yeah, John Russell. Yeah, he should be in there.
but he's not on our list.
And we're trying to think if he's not a member.
He said he-
Oh.
John Russell.
Yeah, maybe he spells it differently.
Maybe just John Russell.
Well, I typed in Russell and it didn't show. Interesting. Okay. Let me. try a different method.
Okay,
Okay, that paper needs to be replaced. That comes first, sorry.
that's all right. So we're at the table down here. I'll let Don know that you're looking at it.
Yes, yeah, we're in the process.
Okay, there you have three boxes of pencils to pass out. Are they no longer in existence?
I can check here real quick. I don't appear to have pencils. Would pens work? Okay, all right, sorry about that. All right. 1 second, I gotta look something up real quick. Archive, that's what I need. There we go. Okay. All right, how can I help you? Yeah, so if you can,
You have the Zoom room up?
I do have the Zoom room up, yes.
Health insurance side in?
Yes, admit, okay,
You should be co-host.
all right. Yep, I'm sorry, I have to process this real quick and I'll get right back to you. Sorry, this is just a very, very busy, yeah, exactly. Make co-host. Okay. If you would, please write your email there. I will double check. Oh, you got a pen, awesome. And, yeah, do you know if it was like Google said that services were at 9 or 11 or?
It was UUCB.com. It wasn't that Breeze thing, you have to.
The uuchurchofboulder.org, is that? Okay. I thought I had changed all of those. Services. Oh, it says it there. Gotcha, okay. Yep, that would explain it. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to change that now. I'm so sorry about that.
Sam, I think it's process of determining whether I have
So
member or not.
according to our database,
Yeah.
which may or may not be correct, you are not a member.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So does that sound right to you?
I think what happened was, I was a member, then I was dropped, then I returned
Okay.
membership, I think it was around 2017, 2018, something like that.
Gotcha. All right. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, all right.
Yes.
Is that, it's TJ?
Saunders
And
at
I've been
Comcast.
getting it for like 20 years now, all of a sudden I do that.
Yeah, our email client just does that sometimes. Let me.
What color is it?
Okay, there we go.
Frederick baseball. I don't remember if I saw it.
Let's see, June, you are active and you are signed up for the correct email. So it's possible that it's being sent to your spam folder. Have you been checking your spam?
Yes.
You have. Okay. In that case, it is saying that you are actively receiving emails. So
Isn't that wild?
that is wild. It also means I'm very limited in what I can do about that. I could sign up a different email. I can, let me see if I can attempt to delete you and then you can try joining again. Hey there. Are all the settings good or?
We are not able to unmute people and we need to be able, from the chancel, from the clerk, we need to be able to unmute people. So can you make us host and we'll make you co-host?
Okay,
Okay, let me make sure that will allow us to mute people and then I'll make sure you're co-host.
okay,
The AV room still is not logged in. They're logging in now.
okay, awesome.
There's still more out there.
I don't think I can manually delete you. Unfortunately, in order to send a test email, I can't do that at this time. I would need to do that during office hours. Yeah, I apologize.
the voice of all being. We heard it. Yeah, where? Okay. In that spirit, I welcome you.
I have to call it to order. I'm hoping I don't have to keep running back and forth.
Getting on you.
We are getting audio?
Yeah, but I can hear it.
Well, we'll turn off your volume in a minute. Okay. Good morning, afternoon, whatever we are at this point. My name is Whitney Wheelis. I am serving as your moderator of this annual meeting. And welcome to all of you. And this is my favorite part, I will call the meeting to order. I will now recognize Steve Todd, who will do our chalice lighting and welcome.
Well, you've heard not only an invocation, but opening words, and now I'll open it even further. My name is Stephen Todd. I have the privilege of being a member of our Board of Trustees and our next president. One thing I love about this congregation is our people and our purpose, which sounds like two things, but becomes one when we just say community. We are a community where we experience belonging in all kinds of relationships, supportive relationships, challenging relationships, working relationships, caring relationships. We are connected and connected with a mission that involves bravery, spirituality, justice, and love. What fun. We just closed our service earlier with the song Lean on Me. And I'm willing to bet there are few, if any, other churches that have that song in their hymnal. And as I pondered that phrase, I started to think about other prepositions. Grammar reminder. Preposition is a word that expresses a relationship between a thing and an action. Other prepositions that could be used with the verb lean, and I got a kaleidoscope of possible ways people can lean. We can lean on, getting support. We can lean into, engaging with a task. We can lean across, embracing our differences. We can lean toward, anticipate. We can lean against and around and in. So I light this chalice in affirmation of our community and mission as a religious congregation in Boulder. Let's get on with it and let's get to work.
About that. The UUCB mission. As a beacon of liberal religion, we connect bravely, deepen spiritually, embody justice, always love. Steve had already previewed. We are now going to say together our covenant of respectful relationships. Okay, so I'd like everyone to join me and we will read our covenant. This is how we are agreeing to work together, that promise making, promise breaking, promise remaking people. This helps guide us in that process. Can people see it? All right, I'll read it. I'll read it. I'll read it. Our spiritual health and growth requires our best efforts to maintain respectful relationships with each other, especially when we encounter conflicts among our members or with our minister or staff. As a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, I covenant to do the following to the best of my ability. I will treat others in our community with the same love and respect that I would like to receive. I will listen to others with attention and empathy, recognizing that it is as important to understand as to be understood. I will speak honestly and directly with care and compassion. I will honor the right of others to form and hold differing opinions. I will speak directly with anyone with whom I have a concern. I will focus on the present and the future rather than on the past. I will keep an open mind and remain engaged in the process of seeking a resolution when conflict occurs. Thank you. I am now looking to the clerk to confirm whether we have a quorum.
Yes, we required 51 people to have a quorum and we have 80 people total, so we have a quorum.
In case you couldn't hear online, we needed 51. We have 80 official people in the room, virtually and in person, so we do in fact have a quorum. Excellent.
Hello, my name is Jim Rao, and today I'm serving as the parliamentarian. And part of our fifth principle is the use of democratic process in running our congregation. And we use Robert's Rules of Order to help us run an effective, efficient meeting. So Henry Martin Roberts was an Army officer, and back in the late 1800s, he created something called Robert's Rules with the object of, as he said, to assist an assembly, us, to accomplish the work for which it was designed. So it may sound a little bit intimidating, but it really isn't. And I'll cover some very brief points to it. So in brief, the way this works is when we get to the business of the meeting, a member would move the motion, and then another member would second it. And then we have discussion. In the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about how we manage discussion. A big part of Robert's Rules of Order is to make sure everyone has a chance to speak their what they'd like to say as part of the discussion, and we do that in an orderly fashion. When we feel someone feels that we've had ample discussion, they can call to end debate or calling the question. And if a majority of those present feel that it's ready to vote, then we would make the vote. And that's where you're going to use your ballot. So for simple measures, it's just a pure majority. We have one issue around amending our bylaws, and that will require a 60% majority. And then we'll announce the result. It's pretty straightforward. One person speaking at a time, that's important. Let's and wait for the microphone, please, so everyone can hear. And then there's really two things you could also do. You could interrupt that flow to say, I need better explanation. I need a point of information. And that's requesting the speaker to elaborate on some aspect of what they had said. The other one is if you feel like the rules aren't going right, we forgot a step, something is out of order, you'd say point of order and then indicate what you think is wrong and we'll discuss that. Don't go too deep. I'm not a expert in Robert's rules. You want to explain this?
Yeah.
Sure.
And then we're going to do our first thing. So for discussion, we'll ask you to raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you. And we'll call on people in the room, but we'll also be looking at folks in the Zoom room if anyone wants to make any comment. The most important thing is that I will recognize one at a time. Wait for the microphone. We have online people. They can't hear you in this room if you don't wait for the microphone. You will then have the microphone. We'll talk about how long you have to talk in a few moments. And then for online, we're asking you to use the raise hand feature in Zoom. That will bring you to the top of our screen. And I will look to Chris to let me know if there's anyone. And you're going to need to unmute yourself. We're not able to unmute you directly. So we'll call you. We'll call on you. I'll call on you. And then you'll unmute yourself. You'll make your point. And then we will mute. You'll mute again. When we vote, we will be using the ballots in the room, but online, you'll be using the raise hand feature. Important both in the room and online is that you keep your hand raised until we tell you we've tallied the votes. If it's close, we're going to have to count. So we'll actually may take a straw poll and then the real poll if it's close. If it's not close, we will just move forward. Okay. But it's important everyone keep their hands raised so we can get that count.
Great. So this has been a tradition of ours, but we'll do a quick practice here with a motion. So I'm going to motion that we limit the individual speaking time to 2 minutes during the discussion period. That'll keep things moving along. So actually, someone has to move it. I'm just reading the motion. Does someone want to move?
Okay, Robin.
Robin moves. And please state your name so we can record that. And we'll get Heidi, I saw raising her hand, so we'll second. Great. Is there any discussion? Okay, well then let's vote. Okay, all in favor? Okay. Anyone against? All right, we have a majority, so we will, for this meeting, adopt that we'll limit speaking time to 2 minutes. So there you go, pretty easy, right? So with that, I will hand it on here to keep us moving with David. Is that right?
Oh, no, I gotta go with me. It's me.
Oh, I clicked it twice.
I'm going to have you be the timer. So Jim will be our timer for the 2-minute timer. Not another thing that I'm navigating. Okay, so our first order of business is to approve our minutes from the previous 2 congregational meetings. Okay. Did anyone? Okay, and can I clarify, Judith King, that you are moving to approve both sets of minutes at the same time? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second from Reed Bailey. Okay, this is the quick vote again. All in favor of approving the minutes from the previous 2 meetings as indicated on the screen? Thank you. All opposed? Okay, we have an approval of our minutes. Congrats. Now David will come and present for in remembrance.
Every Sunday I look out, and you may not know this, but for many of you, I know where you sit. You sit in the same spot week after week, and part of that is a lovely, beautiful thing. And part of that also means that when there are empty seats, I see those absences. We all do. There are empty seats in this community since we gathered a year ago. Members of this church who've passed away, and we name them now with love and with sorrow. Betty Skip, Jerry Pearson, and Ginny Wright. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. I complete this third year of ministry, if you count that first pandemic year only as one and not as 3 or 4. I complete this third year of ministry with so much gratitude for you all and pride in what we've accomplished together, and a lot of excitement for the year ahead. This has been a year of growing momentum, of welcoming so many newcomers, and I think as of today, 42 new members this year, and old projects taking new forms and new programs taking root, and especially the progress towards this absolutely gigantic, daunting, beautiful, wildly exciting task of building expansion, which we've been moving towards for years, The report from 2019 was one of the things in the search packet for me when I first started to learn about this church, and it's exciting to see us move towards it. But what I want to say today instead is that much more important than what we're doing and what we've done this year is how we're doing it. And this year, there are 3 core concerns that I find myself coming back to again and again, talking about with the staff team. Each of these actually is a core strength of the community and one that we need to keep on building on. Things that we're good at and will keep on being great at. The first is that relationship is the real substance of this church. Only real relationship and belonging is strong enough to ground us and unite us in community. And no matter how warm the initial welcome is, or how moving the worship is, or how engaged the family ministry program is, or how important the work for justice is that we do, or how beautiful the music is, people stay for relationship. That understanding of a journey towards belonging, not just membership, sign your name in the book, make it official, but a feeling of belonging profoundly shapes our priorities as a staff team, profoundly shapes so much. It shapes the stories that I tell in worship and the themes that I preach from. Relationship and connection is co-creation, and your staff team helps you do that. But we can't do it. Today, every time we welcome new members, you hear that message. Real belonging can only come from all of you to all of you. That belonging is 1,000 subtle gestures of welcome. Belonging means that when someone comes in late, you scooch over to make a spot for them. It means when you see someone whose face you absolutely do not remember, and possibly have never seen before, you say, have we met before? It means asking people in coffee hour, how was your week? What brought you here? Instead of where do you live? What do you do? Welcome means, and I still love this one, even though it's so cheesy, standing not as donuts, as little closed circles of people, but as croissants, right? Croissants with an open spot for people that it is so cheesy. I'm really into it. All right, all of this matters, especially this year, more than others, and in the year ahead, because we're in community in a new way post-pandemic. And I say this especially to longtime members. It's no longer possible to know everyone in the church. And it may be that that actually hasn't been possible for years now. But sometimes, longtime members, it's going to feel uncomfortable for you to be in a room where you don't know most of the people, even though you've been here for 20, for 50 years. I propose a slight reframe, not as a red flag in those moments, but a reminder that physiologically, the feeling of anxiety is almost physiologically identical to the feeling of excitement. It's the meaning that we assign to that thing. Your pulse speeds up, you sweat a little, maybe there are some butterflies in your stomach. That feeling that can be anxiety, instead, I want to offer as excitement that is an invitation into relationship. And in fact, that is the same feeling that newcomers feel walking in the building every week. It's a reminder flag to say, I don't know if we've met before, which is my line because I have a terrible memory for faces and names. I don't know if we've met before. I'm David, and there you are off and running. That intentional relationship and connection making is vital in a period of growth. To avoid falling into this trap of us and them, newcomers versus long-timers, young adults versus elders, families versus empty nesters, 9 o'clock service goers versus 11 a.m., insiders and outsiders. All of that is, I shouldn't say BS, but I don't know. You know what that stands for. It's all bogus. Yeah, let the minutes reflect. Everyone counts. Everyone matters. Full stop. Okay, second thing that's guided so much of our work this year and that I think about a lot. This community is an ecosystem. We are not a monoculture. We're an ecosystem and we all grow it together. We are community weavers and justice makers and spiritual seekers. And we thrive as a community exactly because there are different people passionate about different things and also engaged in the church in different ways. I mention this also because most of our members are not here right now. And you could get resentful about that, or you could say, oh, this is not the way that those folks are engaging right now. The church looks different for every person. We don't all have the same needs. We don't all have the same capacity. And that's not a flaw. That's where our strength is. Different seasons of life and spiritual journey invite people into different kinds of engagement. Sometimes what this church looks like to you, to someone, is justice work. That's what's at the center of what it means to be here. And sometimes it's music making or shared worship that's the life-giving, the embodied experience that restores you in a spirit-draining culture. Sometimes what you're here for is relationship and connection in community in response to loneliness and isolation. Sometimes it is the commitment to nurture your kids' deepest values in a world that seems to ignore their inherent worthiness. And that's what the place is about. In dozens of other ways, people find what feeds them in this community and discovers opportunities for growth and change, how they participate as their own lives change. An ecosystem church is robust enough to meet those various needs and resilient enough to let go of programs that no longer serve. I'll give you such a simple example. In the early part of the year, we struggled and fretted and tried to recruit who will be our dishwashing crew. Last month, we installed a dishwasher. Right? It's not that washing dishes is not important. It is definitely important. It's that we didn't need to meet that need in the same way that we did 4 or 5 years ago. We could do it differently. Finally, here's the last charge. We are not, as a community, supposed to be something else. There is no mythic past that this church community is supposed to return to and become great again. I'm not here to make this church great again. There is no wished for future that once we get there, everything will be okay and we will finally be enough. We are not supposed to be bigger or more important or more powerful. We may end up being there, but the point is the internal supposed to be narrative for all of us. If it's about anything other than just living into our mission, which is this deceptively simple, enormous invitation to connect bravely and deepen spiritually, to embody justice and always love. If our aim is at something other than that extremely ambiguous thing, it's going to go wrong. Living into our mission and intentionally making relationship the connecting thread of this ecosystem church. It's probably going to grow us bigger. It sure did this year. But the point is to follow and trust that mission, like a compass heading in the wilderness, and say, all right, what does that mean concretely? What do we need to do now? All of us together co-create this community. It is life-crafting work that we gather to do. It is transcendent and it is deeply ordinary. To every one of us who gathers here needing shelter from the storm of life, needing renewal for the work of living with integrity, this is your church. I'm grateful for this third year shared with you. And I am so proud to be your minister. And I am deeply hopeful for what lies ahead. Thank you.
Rachel Alba will now come and give us a report on religious education.
Does that work?
Right here.
Awesome. Okay. I'm Rachel Alba. I'm the Director of Religious Education. And I'm going to start by telling you a little bit just by the numbers how religious education is doing, a little bit of what this year was all about. And then I'm going to give you 3 specific memories I have that embody exactly what I'm hoping to create and how we've done that collectively over the past year. So to start, this year was my first full year in this position, which means that what we were doing most of the year was laying the foundation of events and the ways of doing things that will provide a way to do things next year so that by the time we do it the year after that, we've built traditions. And these are the foundational things that we have in a religious education program so that a kid who is 5 this year and sees that, oh, there's this event that happens, we'll see it done twice or 3 times, see that our middle schoolers and our high schoolers are helping run the event. And then they start to look forward to being that middle or high school student that will run the event in the future. And that gives our youth and our children a path for feeling like they belong in this community throughout their childhood and their youth until they graduate and hopefully move on to a UU community, maybe still here or maybe elsewhere. Not that it's necessarily our innate goal to have people be lifelong UUs, but we have a lot of studies right now that are showing that having a religious base provides resiliency and mental health benefits and the sense of community and belonging that we all deeply crave as human beings. So that's what this year was about, laying that foundation. We started this year, or when I started about a year ago and change, we had about 6 kids coming to religious education at the 9 a.m. service on a regular basis. Now we've been averaging about 12. And if you look at the curve, the actual graph, it's very clear that 12 is actually the average of the whole school year, but it's actually still going up. So my guess is that that will continue to go up next year. When I started, we didn't actually have a youth group. We didn't have middle schoolers really at all. Every once in a while, you'd have one middle schooler show up at 11 a.m. for religious education. I moved our religious education for middle schoolers to being a youth group for middle schoolers and high school students to be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. every other Sunday, more or less. And we now have about 4 people that come on a regular basis out of a group of about 8 to 10 that are like in that community. That's huge. That kind of growth is huge. Thank you, Jason. And what's even cooler than having the fact that we have more people around, it's that they've built community amongst each other. So this space is the best space to play hide and go seek in if you are a middle schooler or high schooler in our community. When it is dark in the winter, this is an amazing space for hide and go seek because it is dark and hard to find people. And we learned that this year. In general, last year for our congregational certification, we said we had 23 active children and youth. This year we could claim 48. Yes. Thank you. And in addition to religious education, we've also been providing our whole lives curriculum. So this past fall, we did kindergarten and first grade. And if you helped out with that, can you raise your hand? Because a lot of you are in this room. Yeah, there were about 5 facilitators for that. And right now we are offering 8th and 9th grade on Our Whole Lives inspired summer camp. So I condensed a 26-week curriculum into 1 week. It's doable and it's been going really well. So that's just the outline. Can we move to that's my job. Next slide. This is an amazing picture that I love someone took. This is me with the Our Whole Lives facilitators that will be helping teach the 5th and 6th grade Our Whole Lives program in the fall. And I realized I didn't say that's the sexuality education program that the Unitarian Universalist Association puts out. What I love most about this picture is it was taken during coffee hour after the 9 a.m. service. And you'll see that these dads are like handling their babes in arms while we're like sitting on the floor talking about how we are all a little anxious and nervous to teach 5th and 6th grade sex education. This is one of my favorite days of this past year. These are pictures from the first families night out we had. We've had 4 this year, and those families nights out offer a catered meal for our parents and our kids. The parents get to eat by themselves without their kids in the sky room while the kids get taken care of in and around the room. This first one we had kind of as a haunted house, but going back in time and learning about different Halloween traditions or traditions that led to what we now know as Halloween. That picture on the left-hand side are Josie and Rhea. And what I love about this moment is they were jumping up and down and shrieking, which you can't hear in the picture. But that kind of joy and that kind of unbridled knowing that you can be exactly who you are, as excited as you are, as silly as you are, dressed up in costume, is exactly what I want literally everyone to feel when they walk in this space, but especially our children and youth. And that was a moment when I got to see them really experiencing that. This is a picture from our winter camp-in. Both of those pictures are from our winter camp-in. And the other moment I want to mention, our winter camp-in was an intergenerational event. So many of you were there, and we also had tons of families around. We had games happening in the sky room, we had arts and crafts down the hallway, and we had a sing-along in this room. And that's what I want to talk about. There was an amazing moment when I believe Steve Todd was playing music and Heidi was playing drums, and we had Clint playing guitar, and Michael was helping out with karaoke. But we had a round of, what is that word? An amazing rendition of Puff the Magic Dragon, where you can see sweet Ruby right there next to Carrie, just wailing into that microphone, owning this sanctuary as her own. And also knowing that we come together as an intergenerational community to have these sorts of moments. This is another great moment of intergenerational community we had this year, and this was the December community night. And it was amazing. Paula and Amy, you all played piano for us to sing carols. We all sang harmonies in different ways. We had a nice little alto group that I was a part of with Irene. We were building gingerbread houses. We had an ugly sweater competition. And it was amazing to have all these different ages playing around with each other in these beautiful ways right before the holidays. Then that's the stuff of church. Like, that's why we come to buildings like this, so we get to experience all of those ages together, which we don't get to do in most places. Finally, we had 9 all ages services this year. And this is a picture from our Easter service of all of us dancing along to the same song that we just sang earlier today. And it's a moment of recognition that when we do all ages services, yes, we do silly things like dance around while we are singing, but it actually helps us as adults engage in the experience as much as the kids. And what I loved most is in our most recent all ages service, one of the things that we do in religious education class is the same stones ritual of blessings and concerns that we do in our services. So every week we go around, we check in and say a blessing or concern from the week, and we put our stone in the earth, just like we do in our services with the adults. And the last all ages service we had, which was just a couple weeks ago, what was that for? Was that Earth Day? No. Music Sunday. It was for Music Sunday. And, you know, adults got up, they picked up their stones, they said the things they were going to say. And at a certain point, one of the kids got up and said what their blessing was and placed their stone in without prompting. It wasn't, oh, kids, now you're invited. It was just, yeah, we know this ritual. We've done this all year, and we can do this thing called church too. And then another kid came up, and it was this beautiful experience of seeing that this is working. This is happening. They are participating and growing in our community just like we would hope them to do. And so I leave you with that story, knowing that this is just the foundation. We laid a foundation this year that we will continue to build upon next year, and that will become full of rich traditions and beauty as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And now Kathy Edwards will give the president's report.
So I'm Kathy Edwards. I've been the president of our board of trustees for this past year. And I'm excited to stand here today sharing with you a few key accomplishments of this very busy past year and to provide an update about our building renovation project. My comments will be brief. So much good work has happened in so many areas over the last year, as documented in the big annual meeting packet, and it's 40 pages of reports from all the staff, ministries, and committees. I'm humbled and grateful for all that everyone is doing for our wonderful faith community. I will just focus on a few areas. Vibrant is my go-to word for describing what I feel and experience here. We're a vibrant and growing community, welcoming many newcomers into our shared ministry of building relationships and connection. We are intentional in co-creating our experience of belonging, which nurtures all of us, both longtime members and new ones. This UU Church has wonderfully dynamic and strong ministries, thanks to the passion and hard work of our wonderful minister and talented staff and many, many volunteers. Each of these areas, worship, music, social justice, religious education, and family ministry, has continued to explore, experiment, build foundations, and inspire us this year. A year ago, the board identified 3 strategic initiatives for this church year to support building capacity for this vibrant and growing community. Leadership development was championed by, appropriately, the Leadership Development Committee. They organized and facilitated our first Harvest the Power program, a UU series to encourage and develop church leadership interest and skills. LDC also refreshed the skills and interests survey, increasing our bank of information to match people to opportunities. The board continued our commitment to support staff salary adjustments that are in line with UUA guidelines and cost of living changes. In both formal and informal ways, the church has made strong progress with creating an overall culture of welcome and belonging. The communication committee launched new name tags and the redesigned website. That was almost a year ago. Which is deliberately structured to engage and inform someone exploring UUCB. Reverend David and our staff developed a belonging journey to inform and guide early interactions and shape activities. More informally, the warm welcome so many of us extend to newcomers at coffee hour or community night or sitting next to us in a worship service. Discerning and deciding to expand our building was the big lift of the past year, which moves me into the next part of my report, an update on the future of our building. This slide shows the background of last November's vote. Our exploration of building renovation started early in 2020. We invited a consultant from the UUA to come look at capital campaign, but was paused in the pandemic. That was January of 2020 that happened. In the fall of 22, we returned to the project with a visioning process to get early input from the congregation. At the same time, a strategic initiatives, or C, as we call it, committee, researched and narrowed the options. Last fall, the board partnered with C to map and execute a multifaceted plan of communication and information. We held a well-attended special congregational meeting on November 12th and voted to stay and renovate. So here's our current steps. In December and January, the board drafted and polished charters for a building planning team and a capital campaign team. The teams were announced and started their work early last month and have jumped in energetically. They are learning from the UUA and other congregations who have renovated recently what is required and should be considered. The teams will identify and engage external partners like UUA consultants, architects, contractors, banks over the course of this period. Ultimately, the teams will develop detailed proposals for design and funding. These teams will not work in a vacuum, but actively engage and communicate with the congregation. This may include a survey, small group cottage meetings, we call them, presentations and Q&A opportunities at forums, newsletters, design drawings, and lots of conversations. Your input will be sought and valued. Also, your help will be sought and valued. We're learning that successful renovations involve most of the church community at various times during the process. There will be opportunities and requests to get involved, even if you're not on one of the core teams. There will be things that you can contribute and help with. And when we have gathered all that input and developed the building design and funding plans, we'll make sure everyone has opportunities to see and hear the plans and then have another congregational vote. Are we agreed on these plans and ready to proceed? We think that that congregational vote will be next spring, about 1 year from now. And that concludes my president's report. My tenure in this role on the board has been made easy by my fellow board members. They are smart, capable, and compassionate. Thank you. I am proud of this congregation's accomplishments of the past church year and excited for the future of this vibrant and growing community. May we continue to connect bravely, deepen spiritually, embody justice, and always love. Much joy to you.
Thank you, Kathy. We will now have Burton Lee give us a report from the Endowment Committee. Oh, and Tom Dankenwolf as well.
So the purpose of the endowment is to serve the mission of the church. So for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, the committee was composed of me, Tom, Sharman, Burton, Catherine, and Clyda. And our responsibilities are to manage the endowment's assets, manage the grant recommendation process, and manage the grant accounting and reimbursement process, to meet regularly and report regularly, and to manage the investments for PRISM. The PRISM Fund, PRISM stands for Progressive Radically Inclusive Ministry. That was a thing from a few years ago. And so the endowment also helps manage that fund. An update on the assets. As of the start of the fiscal year, July 1st, 2023, the endowment fund had $697,000 for $6,970. I can do this. $697,045. As of May 15th this year, when this report was submitted, the endowment had $733,203. With a return over the period of 5.3%. PRISM Fund managed similarly, just a smaller fund, started the fiscal year at $331. And as of May 15th, it was at $91,994, also 5.3% return over the time period. And I will pass it on to Burton.
Thank you, Tom. I think we all need to give Tom a great thanks and appreciation. So, Tom has been on the endowment committee for 6 years. And for those of you who do not know, Tom is a professional investment advisor, and he has been providing guidance as to exactly how our funds should be invested and has done a great job over that period of time. And he will be going off of our committee. And so he will be deeply missed. And I appreciate you sharing the early part of the presentation. Okay, so let's see. Maybe.
Here, nope.
Oh,
Uh-oh, what did you do?
I hit every single one of them.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, trouble. Okay, this one is how I move.
Okay.
Loading. They're gonna go for it. But
Okay.
it's that one right there.
Okay.
Don't hit anything else.
Okay. Now she tells me. Okay, so. Whoop. This is very sensitive. Okay, so during the last fiscal year, we two things were of note. One is that we had more money to distribute than we actually distributed. And so we encourage in the future going forward that if you are part of a team that can put in a grant request, we encourage that. So if you recall, the grant distributions basically are 5% of a rolling average of the last 13 quarters, which is close to what we are able to distribute in any given year. 75% of that money goes to capital projects and 25% goes to outreach, leadership development type projects. And so the last few years, we have been setting aside at the request of the board $25,000 a year to help with what was originally anticipated to connect to city water. And so that money has already been accumulating, and this money, but we haven't used any of it yet. So that money is still in the endowment fund, but that is there. And so there have been no other capital projects that have been funded. So for next year going forward, I'm pleased to say that we did get grant requests to meet all of the money that we had. And so we will be having shortly 10 new 8-foot tables and 10 6-foot tables, 44 tablecloths and 24 forks. And then if you noticed today when we came in, Barb and Irene were standing there at the table greeting us, and it was kind of cramped, a little. They're going to be getting a new table, new signage for when new members come or visitors come in and members come in to improve that greeting situation. Going to be getting a 65-inch TV to put in the Sky Room to help communicate activities that are going on and future activities. And then we're also going to be, there will also be another TV monitor for the Sky Room, excuse me, to replace the small monitor that we have currently in the entryway. So that's exciting. And then the water use, water line, less exciting, but equally important. That money will be set aside as well. So that was we were able to use up all of the grant money that we had available to distribute. So, okay. The things that we have been working on. So we went from a committee of 3 people to 5 people, and that 5 people began this year. So we had 3 new people. And so a fair amount of time was associated with just integrating those people. We consolidated all of our investments into Charles Schwab. They were in different locations before. We are in the process of developing a giving brochure, which we're at the very end of that process so that everybody can better understand the endowment and what it represents. Add endowment fund presence to the website. So there is a link now on our website with information about the endowment fund. We updated the entryway, and it's hanging in the entryway, a plaque that shows the people who have contributed all time to the endowment fund. And so that is a project that took some effort. And then we integrated 3 new members, as I mentioned at first. And then we are in the process of conducting an RFP for an investment advisor, since none of the 5 people on the committee are professional investment advisors. And so as a part of that process, we're reaching out to 8 different investment advisory groups, anywhere from single individuals to national public companies. And we're in the process of synthesizing that information, and we will be making a recommendation to the board as to how to manage our investments going forward. Okay. So Don Lilly is going to be joining the board, and Tom will be leaving. Don has been on the board in the endowment fund in the past, and we're pleased to have him joining us. Some of the things that we're hoping to accomplish are, we want to complete the investment advisory selection process if we have not completed it by the beginning of July. We want to publish the giving brochure, and it'll be available both online as well as in hard copy. And then we want to review and update our written processes for the endowment committee, so that we make sure that they are encompassing everything that we think is appropriate at this time. And then we want to review and update our written investment guidelines so that as committee members turn over, we're not relying as much on corporate history as we have been possibly in the past. And then we want to standardize the reporting so that the information that goes out to the members can look and feel the same every time that the information is available. So that's it. So if there's any questions or comments, suggestions.
That's dangerous.
All right.
Thank you, Burton. And now we have, and Tom. And now we have Matt Ball, our treasurer, who will give the treasurer's report and also present the budget.
All right, so this is where we get to talk about the numbers in more detail. We've already seen some snapshots from the endowment committee. I'm going to basically show you some of the things that we talked about in the finance forums that we had the previous 3 Sundays. I'm hoping that for everyone who cares deeply about the numbers, that you were there. This is going to be a summarized version of what we presented in those finance forums. I'm going to be talking about 3 things. Let's see. Okay, there it is. I'm going to be talking about the current budget, or sorry, the current balance sheet. And then after that, I'll go into the budget. And then after that, we'll talk about, we'll have an actual motion to approve the budget. So first off, this is the balance sheet. So what we have is the endowment committee independently manages their money, and then the finance council basically handles the things that are kind of like the operating expenses. So the first 2 lines there, those are just basically anything that's just day-to-day operations. We have about between the 2 of those accounts, about $250,000. So we're actually in a very good shape compared to where we've been in previous years. Like 10 years ago, we were just scraping the bottom of the barrel, but we've over the last 10 years slowly built up a very nice cushion in our operating expenses. We also have a few other funds that the Finance Council manages. We have the Capital Fund, and then Prism Fund, which the Endowment Committee mentioned. There's the invested portion of that, and then there's some that's in the bank account. And then after that, we have the Justice and the Mission Fund. That sort of completes our total. And let me just, I'll be showing some pie charts to kind of visually show these things. Each pie chart has something that takes up 3/4 of the pie. So be watching for that. Okay, so the next is, this is the total assets of the church. So in total, we have basically the church is valued at $4.4 million. And you can see the 3/4 of that is actually our land, which is about 3.2 million based on our last appraisal. This land and building combined. And then after that, you'll see the endowment, as you mentioned previously by Burton. We have about 700,000. That changes actually quite a bit depending on when you measure the account. And then after that, you can see the last little slices there are the ones I showed you earlier, which is the 400,000 or so that's managed by the Finance Council. Okay, so now we're going to go into the budget, and the foundation of the budget is the pledges. And our pledge committee did a fantastic job this year. We have a 13% increase in pledges, which is probably the biggest increase I've seen. So I just want to give a quick round of applause. This is Jack and Sharman were the pledge leaders. So just a fantastic job with that work. Thank you. Reed, do you have something to say? Question is, how many pledge units do we have? The answer, I do not know offhand, actually. It's going to be whatever the membership was.
We have 251 members who are eligible to vote, and there's about 6 more. So let's round it up to 2.
Oh, yeah. 175 is what I think what Jack says. Yeah. Okay, and then something I don't have here is that, so with this great increase in our pledges, there's another goal that we've been trying to make, which is to increase the staff salaries to meet the UUA guidelines. And that's been very important for in terms of the board's priorities. And I'm happy to say that with this increase, a 30% increase, we had on average about 11% increase in the salary section. We'll see that more in the expense side. Okay, so just real quick, this is the budgeted income breakdown. You can see that 3/4 of it is, in fact, pledge income. Your packet will have all the details. I'm hoping everyone looked at all the line level details, all 5 pages. And for those who didn't quite get through all of those, this will just kind of give you an overview of what our budget looks like in terms of how you break it down. But yeah, most of it is, in fact, the pledge income, but we have a few other things like, for instance, the fundraisers like Fabulous Feast. We have building use funds, or just a few examples of the other forms of income. There's also like the plate donations that we receive and so forth. Okay, and this right here is our next pie chart, which is the expense side of things. And here again, about 3/4 is salaries. And that's the most important thing that we pay for in this church, and it is the biggest part of the expenses. I just wanted to say that the finance part there does actually include the salary of our bookkeeper as well. And it also includes the cost of insurance, which is pretty high as it turns out. Some of the big expense items besides salaries are buildings and grounds. I've been tracking those, and those have actually been trending up quite a bit over the last 10 years. That's due to the building aging. And part of the benefit of having a capital campaign is that we can basically, in addition to having a nice big building, we can reduce some of the ongoing expenses that we have for building maintenance. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is some of our deficits, the deficit trending over the last 3 or 4 years. And notably in the 2021-2022 year, we budgeted for a deficit of almost $75,000, very deep. We knew that it was going to be a tough year just because we're coming out of COVID. And we planned to pay for that out of our restricted cash reserve fund. As it turns out, so just to kind of describe what we're seeing here, the blue is the budget, the green is the actual. So in that year, the actual was that we only lost maybe $5,000. So that was like a $70,000 swing. That came from a lot of generous one-time pledges. And then there's, I think, some lower staff expenses that particular year. But the main takeaway, just you can look at the different years, is that we'll budget for a particular amount, but then the actuals can vary quite a bit. And so for the current year, the 25 year, which is on the very right side there, you'll see what we have is we've budgeted for a deficit of on the order of about $7,000. I do have some dotted lines there, which show that what we're also doing is based on looking at this trending of, the big difference between what we actually get versus what we budget. We tend to get on the order of about $26,000 more money than we expect. And so what we're doing starting this next year is that we're going to add in this case, $26,000 of average non-pledged income estimate, and that'll just kind of help us basically make the most of the money that we receive versus just accumulating it without ever spending it. Okay, so with that, that's the budget overview. Next, we have a motion, which is to approve the budget. So I will make a motion. Matt Ball makes a motion to approve the 2024-2025 proposed budget as published in the annual meeting packet.
I think I heard Carol Saunders was a second. She was quick. Okay, we now have a motion and a second, so it is now open for discussion. If anyone has any questions or comments, remember, please wait for the microphone. Heidi Todd and Nicole Ball are going to be managing our microphones, and maybe Matt stays right here just in case there's questions. Anyone have any comment or question? Yes, they're in the back.
Nice job, Tom. This is just for fun. I've been a leader and done some other things in budgeting. I would just recommend, this is just a suggestion and a recommendation. When you present information, sometimes it goes down to the decimal point, and then your slides mixed, having a decimal point and no decimal point. I would suggest getting rid of the decimal point altogether. We're a great big church, and you don't need those pennies.
Thank you. That's a very, very good point. And I attempted to round it to the nearest thousand wherever I remembered, but there's a few places I missed it. But thank you.
Yeah,
pennies.
Some pennies.
The comment was to remove the pennies and go with dollars. Thank you. Hilton Fitpeister.
Thank you. That's who I am. Yes.
Yep.
So we're trying to bring our salaries more in line with UUA guidelines. Are we there yet?
So Kathy's part of the personnel committee, but just to really briefly speak to it, I think we're almost there. I don't know if you want to say anything else or.
So we've, the UUA recently went through and did a great reframing, like they studied all the costs of living across the country, looked at where their congregations are. They have a very thorough system of compensation management that they encourage the congregations to utilize, which we're using. And one of the things they did was moved us into a slightly higher cost of living bracket of their 6 brackets. We're in the 5th bracket now. And so we ended up having a slightly higher target to move towards, but it's very appropriate for what we are experiencing here in this area. And we have not, in every instance, we have several staff members. We're managing each one's compensation individually, but we're working on moving them towards ideally towards the midpoint of their range. And in some cases to the minimum of their range. And so this will get us everybody towards that minimum and some towards their midpoint. So we're managing it, but yes, we're inside the frame.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes, Jenny.
A follow-up question. Oh, Jenny Fitpeister. We were talking about increasing the hours for, I can't remember what the membership person is now called.
Membership coordinator, I think.
For that person. Has any of that happened in the budget?
Yes, the budget reflects increasing the hours of our community and engagement manager from 10 hours to 20 hours. So that is incorporated in the proposed salary expense.
Is there any, also want to remind that we have online. So if you have any comment, please raise your hand and we'll come to online in a moment. Carol.
Carol Saunders, just wanting a definition of family ministry. Does that cover? I just don't know.
You mean the budget item?
Yeah.
So I believe that is Rachel's. Basically, it's her budget for doing all the things that she does, and Reverend David has more details.
That says it at the highest level. So it's everything from paying to get our teachers trained in OWL, to paying for childcare staff, to paying for food and expenses related to Parents' Night Out quarterly. So it's all that, all the RE stuff.
Anything online? Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a call the question. I see no comments either. So please vote if you are willing to call the question, which means we end debate and then we vote for real. All right, we are all those in favor of the budget. This is the vote for the budget now. So we just voted to call the vote. Now please raise your hand if you are voting to approve the budget. Okay, all those not in favor, noes. The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you to Matt. Okay, we now will have Jim Rao come and present the slate of candidates for our elected positions.
So I'm up here not just for my excellence in jurisprudence, but honor of serving on the board for several years and also the Leadership Development Committee. So the way we do things here, the board is responsible for nominating the upcoming members for the Leadership Development Committee, and I'll share those. And then the Leadership Development Committee helps build that pipeline and identify future board members. So I'd like to present the slate of candidate members for the Board of Trustees. And if you would stand, we have Robin Miller for President-elect, which is a 3-year term. Joe Pullman, also a 3-year term. And then Nicole Ball has been serving on a 1-year term, and she's graciously accepted to up for another year. So that would be our slate of trustees, and we'll vote for all these at the end. And for Leadership Development Committee, we have Amy Self joining. Amy's here. Thank you, Amy. Becky Roots, saw you back there. Thank you, Becky. And Alan Davis. So they'll be joining myself on LDC. Excellent. And then also we are giving some relief to Chris Zanoni, and Kim Kapuska is going to be our clerk of the congregation. Thank you, Kim. Whoa, oh, that is sensitive. Okay. So I guess we also want to know, our bylaws indicate that we can have nominations from the floor for any of these positions. Are there any nominations? Is there any discussion, questions that anyone has? Oh, I'd like to motion this slate of LDC board members and the clerk.
Second.
Okay, we got a
Hilton?
Hilton Easter. Jim was the motion and Hilton was the second. Right, now we can, is there any discussion or comments? Jenny. Heidi's coming. Thank you to our microphone runners.
I think it goes without saying, but wow, what a fantastic job board and LDC did in recruiting candidates for the upcoming year.
Mm-hmm. Including our 2 special committees. Lots of opportunities this year. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, seeing no other hands, nothing online for discussion. We will now vote to approve the slate as presented. Please raise your ballot. Okay, all those in favor, yes. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Our final order of business is to look at a proposed amendment change to our bylaws. That's going to be Kathy.
So as explained in our pre-meeting forums and in the annual meeting packet, this year UUCB is applying for 401c3 tax status. 5013C. 501c3. Okay. You know it better than I do. This will allow us to receive matching gifts from corporations, gifts from donor advised funds, and some service discounts like on software. This status could be especially helpful when we begin a capital campaign. Under the tax code, a religious institution is not automatically in this status. Gifts to a church or a mosque or a synagogue are tax deductible, and churches don't pay taxes, but they are not technically 501c3s. Did I get that right? Thank you. The IRS expects all 501c3 organizations to have a clear statement in their bylaws of the tax exempt purposes for which they are organized. Occasionally, the IRS has rejected applications from churches which don't have a statement of purposes, this sort of statement, in their bylaws. Our bylaws do not currently state that we are organized for religious, charitable, and educational purposes. We need to adopt such a statement to move forward with our application. Therefore, we are proposing to add one sentence to Article 1 of our bylaws. As it says on this slide, the sentence is, the church is organized for religious, charitable, and educational purposes, period. Our bylaws require that a 60% vote of approval is required to make a change to the bylaws. If it appears we have strong disagreement, we'll count the votes to calculate the exact percentage. So this is, after such an amendment, the revised Article 1 of the UUCB bylaws would read in its entirety, Article 1, name and incorporation. The name of this religious society shall be Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, Colorado, herein called church. The church is a Colorado nonprofit corporation as defined by the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Corporation Act. The church is organized for religious, charitable, and educational purposes. So I'm going to move that the UUCB bylaws will be amended to add a sentence to the end of Article 1 as follows. The church is organized for religious, charitable, and educational purposes.
So I have a motion by Kathy Edwards and I have a Diana Maiden is the second. Any discussion? Oh, we have Fred.
I just want to comment that having just gone through this process of applying for 501c status for basic or immigration group, this is not a trivial process. And I congratulate the people that have gone through that to bring it to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. We have a question back there, Heidi. Thank you. You could say your name, please. When you get it.
Liz Cleveland, and I'm working with Reverend David on this process. One question that has been asked a few times of me, and I just want to answer it for everybody, is weren't we a 501c3 before? And we were not. The UUA, the main church is. That status does not flow down to every congregation. So Reverend David very kindly reached out to some other UUs around and got some guidance on how to approach this process. I believe it was in Bedford, Mass, who we've gotten a lot of guidance from, and hence where we came up with the need to amend our bylaws for receiving charitable contributions. I believe their, correct me if I'm wrong, Reverend David, that their initial application didn't have that language in it. And the IRS came back and said, please amend your bylaws. So that's where the little bit of history of this all comes. And we've had some great guidance.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or comments before we move to the vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to amend our bylaws? The motion passes. I won't do the no's because it's obvious. Okay, everyone, when you came in, got to share our plate ballot. That is not an official part of an official vote in our annual meeting. But if you would, if you've ready, please, we will be collecting those in the baskets. If you haven't yet finished it, do finish it before you leave today and get it to Fred. If you need another ballot, Fred has it. And then we have two final pieces, but our business is closed for the meeting. You may. We have no other votes. We have just a final gratitude and closing. Okay, so look for those baskets coming around, and now Steve Todd will come up and do gratitude and a closing. If you need to push it, it's there.
Red. We should do a ballot.
When I saw this on the agenda, I thought, now I get to do the best job in this whole lovely meeting to express my own, on my own behalf and on behalf of the entire congregation, our profound and heartfelt gratitude for some wonderful volunteers who have done extraordinary service in this past year. Being that we are a grateful people, you've already heard a lot of gratitude expressed. So some of this will be repeated, or I'll just summarize. So we have the C committee, SI, Strategic Initiatives, who did tremendous work in getting us to this point on our building process. We have the LDC, Leadership Development Committee, that organized, hosted, and facilitated the Harvest the Power leadership training event that had, I think, 20 or so, 18 or 20 participants. We also want to make a special thank you to Fred Cole and Barbara Richards, who, in addition to everything they add to our congregation every year, stepped up when our office manager was temporarily away and became office staff. I want to thank Charmin Drockstar and Jack Doggett for such a successful pledge campaign for this year. And then three of our Board of Trustees members, Allison Churnside, who's been an at-large member, who's oftentimes been the smartest and most caring person in the room, is going off the board. Jim Rao, who's our past president. That doesn't mean he's a has-been. What that means is he was our past president last year. Will Kropp was to be our past president this year, and Will and Caitlin moved away, and Jim said, okay, I'll come back for a fourth year. So in addition, yeah. So as you saw on the slide, he's been on LDC and on the board, which might be a first. And then Kathy Edwards, our president and soon to be past president, from whom I've learned a lot and who set a very high bar to model for me, and on whom I will continue to rely and delegate all the things that she can do that I cannot. So now I extinguish our chalice acknowledging that we have survived the rigors of another annual meeting, and affirming that we have done it as a community with a mission. And as I do so, if you're open to it and brave, you may turn to one another, look deeply into that one person's eyes for a few seconds, and smile.
All right, we're almost done, like literally seconds. We want to give a special thank you to Kim Kapuska, Kay Doggett, Catherine Marsh, Lori Mazula, and Barb Richards for helping in the clerk process. It takes a village to pull off an annual meeting. And this annual meeting of the UU Church of Boulder is now officially closed. Thank you.
Now we're 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Say bye-bye.
So is he off coffee? Is he off coffee?